situation during this pandemic is very different from events in the past. As a photographer, you could go out and come back home safely, but now nobody knows whether they have brought the virus back to their safe space. This is a nurse waving back to residents of a condominium in front of Adventist Hospital in Pasay, south of Manila. It is one of my favorite photos I took throughout this pandemic because with these simple efforts, I felt the best of humanity in these trying times. During this time, it's the time where hospitals are facing their toughest moments because they are almost full. They are short-handed. All of their all of their medical staffs are getting COVID as well. Some died, some survived. As I said earlier, this is a photo. This is my favorite photo throughout this selected photos taken this pandemic because it showed the quote unquote best in humanity. We were not expecting to see people giving efforts, simple efforts, by making signages and giving thanks to frontliners. Uh, just a quick background. The Adventist Hospital, which is the hospital where those frontliners are working, is a uh, private hospital that accommodates people with that gets COVID. Some of them are in the upper middle class. And the condominium across the hospital are the people who gets COVID that lives in that condominium are admitted in the Adventist hospital. So at some at some point the the efforts of the residents is very encouraging to the frontliners because as I said earlier, this was the time where they're very short-handed. The medical health frontliners are doing duties for almost 24 hours, 7 times a week. And based on our interviews of the residents living there, they just want to say thank you to the frontliners because it's that simple gestures are they think are very encouraging and very uh, boost giving boost to the morals of the frontliners. And it's that simple gestures is according to the frontliners, those small gestures are very big to them. It's not it's not in vain. uh, they they were encouraged very much in that effort, and I think those thank you messages are made them push through and until today, which we have now vaccines and all, we can now move outside without, well, still with the fear of COVID, but unlike before, not like before with no idea of COVID at all. Hi everyone, I am Jansen Romero, a freelance photojournalist based here in Manila, Philippines. Um, I am covering events like police stories. I do coverage of Malacanang, which is the place of the president, Philippine Senate for the Philippine senators, and I do some photo documentary as well. I've been working as a photojournalist for several years now, both in print and in digital. So I'm humbled to be included here in Scopio's book, where some of my photos during the pandemic are chosen, and I'm glad to share the stories behind it. I'm humbled to be sharing the stories behind every photos during this interview. That's it. So I'm about to answer some questions like why did I decide to become a photographer? I originally graduated as a literature major in University of Santo Tomas here in Manila. That's a writing and reading course. Well, it's kind of near for journalism, also near in journalism, but I really want to be I think I want to be in the scene, in the story, I want to be in the situation. Well, the good thing I think of being a literature graduate is I've honed the discipline that is needed in journalism, which is research, reading, and knowing each side of the story, not just taking photos, but knowing what's your what you're doing basically. So every photo I've shared is well, aside from luck, I we do research first before going there. We acquire contacts to for our safety as well, especially in COVID. We unlike before, we just dive into the situation, but now we don't go if we're very unsure of it because we don't want our loved ones to get the virus as well. As a photographer, as a photojournalist working in the newspaper, uh, I remember my boss said to me that my photos should be understood by readers who doesn't have high education, even like the street dwellers when they see the photo, they should understand it and they should be informed. So I think uh that's where I'm coming from, I want my photo not only to be shared both here local and international, but to make make my photos I want my photos to become an eye opener somehow to even just one reader that this is what's happening during the pandemic. This is the Philippines during pandemic. This is the life of media people here in the Philippines during the pandemic. Well, again, I'm very thankful for Scopio for choosing some of my photos, believing in my photos, believing in my work as well, and giving me a chance to share it to everyone, not only in the Philippines but worldwide. Well, having your photos printed is different. Well, having it published online is good too, but having it seen printed in a very nice paper and sharing it to everyone, the physical copy is very different because it gives longer retention to the readers. Unlike the digital, which we some of the readers daily they consume it daily, it just becomes their like visual no it becomes visual noise. It in their mind it becomes categorized as visual noise. uh, eh, Printed photos, personally I considered printed photos like uh paintings in museums like that, because you have output. You can see a hard copy, you can see a physical copy of your photo. And I remember my former boss saying that when you will see the strength of the photo when it's printed, it's physically on the table. Because I remember in newspapers, before doing the final layout of the newspaper, my photo editor will, at the end of the day, well, before doing the final layout, my photo editor will print all the photos of the photographers, of his photographers, and he will choose the best photos of that day. And it's a good editing process to see side by side the photos of every photographers, which is the strongest photo during that day, which is the well, but not weakest, but you will see the difference, the impact of every photograph during that day. So I think the book which will be published is very important for me personally, and it will be very important as well in the community photography community, journalism community, because it it's the time where the world, well, the title of the book, the time where the when the world stopped. it's it's very new, since hundreds of years everyone was not was instructed to not go out because it's dangerous. And we're, well, me as a journalist, I'm humbled to be given this opportunity to share the situation of my fellow countrymen during the height of the pandemic. Again, I'm thankful for everyone for giving me this opportunity. I hope this is not the last opportunity you'd give me, and I'm here to tell and share more stories about our country, whether it's pandemic, post-pandemic. This book, this opportunity gives also is also an encouragement for me, because I know in myself that, well, the situation here, even though it's dreadful, ripples make waves to international community as well. That's it. I'm Jansen Romero from Manila, Philippines. I'm thankful to everyone, and have a good day.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that last episode and learned something new. Don't forget to tune in to the next episode to see what other crazy, incredible, creative, and empowering lessons you can learn from the photos in this book.